Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 1156 of the Juicebox Podcast. Welcome back. This is another episode in the After Dark series. Kate was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes when she was 7. She is now 38. In my notes to myself, I describe Kate's parents as unpleasant. You're going to hear all about it. Kate felt isolated as a child. She suffered from depression, and there is much more to her story. There's also mentions of self-harm, so please be aware. Please don't forget that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. When you place your first order for AG1 with my link, you'll get 5 free travel packs and a free year's supply of vitamin D. drinkag1.com/juicebox. Type 1 diabetes research needs you. T1dexchange.org/juicebox. U.S. residents only. You can be a type 1 or the caregiver of one. The survey will take you about 10 minutes. You're very much going to help people with type 1 diabetes, likely going to help yourself, and definitely going to help me. T1dexchange.org/juicebox. Go take that survey, please. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Contour NextGen blood glucose meter. Learn more and get started today at contournext.com/juicebox. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by US Med. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. US Med is where my daughter gets her diabetes supplies from, and you could too. Use the link or number to get your free benefit check and get started today with US Med. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Eversense CGM. An implantable 6-month sensor is what you get with Eversense, but you get so much more. Exceptional and consistent accuracy over 6 months, and distinct on-body vibe alerts when you're high or low. On-body vibe alerts? You don't even know what that means, do you? EversenseCGM.com/juicebox. Go find out.
I am Kate. I am from Northern Ireland, and I have been diabetic for 31 and a half years, give or take.
How old are you, Kate?
What age am I? I'm 38 at the moment.
Well, so you were just 7 when you were diagnosed.
I was.
Wow, that's crazy. That's a long time ago, too. In the 90s?
It is a long time. Yep, 92.
Mm-hmm. I'm just going to put this in here for everybody listening. Kate is in Northern Ireland. I am in New Jersey. And we're having the tiniest bit of gap in when we're talking. So we're going to try not to talk over each other. But if you hear that once in a while, we're doing our best. Ireland needs better internet? I don't know.
I mean, it does.
Okay. That's a fair statement. Okay, Kate. So, what do you remember about being diagnosed at 7?
It seemed like there was some sort of magic going on. The word diabetes cropped up about 40 times that day. Like, we turned the radio on and it was saying diabetes or diabetic disease and things like this. My parents are both medical. My mum actually worked in the children's hospital, although not in any way related to diabetes. So I think we caught my transition very early.
Okay, so you're have family members, your parents who are in the medical field, and you're just hearing ads and stuff like that. The word diabetes is coming up a lot that day. But were you having any symptoms?
I had a couple of weeks of very rapid weight loss. My parents really struggled to get any kind of fluids into me, and I had drunk like 7 glasses of orange juice with breakfast and asked for water 3 or 4 times in the day, and they're like, well, that's definitely not right. And I'd thrown up in my sleep a couple of times.
Oh, that's fun.
So they knew something was definitely not correct. And my mum took a urine sample into the hospital and just left it on the counter for one of the doctors to walk past. And someone walked past and lifted it. And we're like, whose is that? They need to come in immediately. Mum was like, that's Kay's.
Wow.
So we were rushed down to the hospital. It was about 8 o'clock on a Thursday night. to be introduced to doctors and nurses that my mother knew personally, but that I didn't know, and had my blood sugar taken, and my blood sugar was 43, which I'm not entirely sure what that is. In fact, I'm not entirely sure the conversion chart that I have goes up that high.
Well, I have, let's see, I have a great conversion chart on the podcast website, which somebody from one of the listeners made, and is actually really terrific. I'm going to look real quick for you. 774, I have it as. That's a pretty big number. Okay. Yeah. So your mom just kind of like used her.
I was quite belligerent.
You were belligerent as a child because your blood sugar was so high.
Well, we'll go with that. That's the reason.
Sure, why not? So your mom uses her ins at the hospital to get your urine looked at. I'm assuming they take you in. How long were you at the hospital? Yeah. Do you remember any of that?
I think I was in for a week, and I probably didn't need to be there that long, but it was a week before I would let anyone else inject me. I took my own injection from like the morning after I was admitted and wouldn't let anyone else near me with a needle for a week. So they couldn't let me go home until at least one of my parents had given me an injection. So that was a week later. There's a cat in this room somewhere.
Is it your cat?
It is, yeah.
Well, I mean, I guess that's fine then. The way you just turned around, I was like, there's a cat she doesn't expect in the room all of a sudden. Is there any other type 1 in your family on your mom or dad's side?
I have a second cousin on my mum's side. So my mum's cousin's daughter is a type 1. And we have a number of type 2s. My mum has arthritis, although I'm not sure if it's the type that would be relevant.
Mm-hmm. What about Hashimoto's, celiac?
No Hashimoto's or celiac. My mum definitely has an underactive thyroid.
Okay.
And other than that, not
much.
Anything that I'm aware of.
Does your mom take medication for the thyroid?
She does, yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, what was it like growing up in Ireland with diabetes?
When I was diagnosed, it seemed to be not common. I have never really known very many other people with type 1. I did go to like a children's summer camp for diabetics twice when I was little. I think when I was 8 and when I was either 9 or 10. And then as far as I'm aware, those camps stopped running because the person who was instrumental in running them was assassinated by the IRA.
You don't hear that every day.
They were excellent. No.
I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing.
I have... It does seem ridiculous. It even seems ridiculous to us because it's been a long time from the troubles were the troubles.
Katherine, their murder had nothing to do with diabetes, I assume.
No.
Okay.
It was to do with his day job.
That's crazy.
Which, was not in any way related to any kind of sectarian goings on. He just worked for the wrong company. Gotcha.
So for all of you who don't like living in America, you could live in Ireland where you'll get shot for reasons I don't know, and your internet is going to suck.
I mean, I have family who grew up in Saudi Arabia who were scared to come and visit us here. So,
listen, I'm making no assertions. The only thing I used to know about Irish and something else is I'll tell you something, Kate. I met my wife, and then I met her family, and I noted that her sister would leave a gathering. I always teased it was like the Lone Ranger. Like she was there 1 second, and then she was just gone. But I've been told since then it's called the Irish goodbye. Is that a real thing? Have you ever heard that?
I have heard that, but I don't think it's like a common usage thing.
Well, I don't think it's something a lot of people say. They don't say goodbye. They just, boom, they're gone, right?
It's gone.
Yeah. You're diagnosed at 7. and, you come home. Now you're going to grow up with diabetes. Tell me about that a little bit. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the only CGM you can take off to get into the shower, the Eversense CGM. EversenseCGM.com/juicebox. Well, sure, you could take the other ones off, but then you'd waste a sensor and have to start over again. But not with Eversense. Eversense is a 6-month wear implantable CGM. So if you want to take a shower without anything hanging on you, pop off the transmitter, jump in the shower. When you get back out, put it back on, and you're right back to where you started. Come to think of it, you could do that whenever you wanted to. Maybe it was your prom night or your wedding day. Maybe you just don't want the thing on for a little while, but you don't want to go all through the hassle of taking it off and having to restart it and, starting back over with like wonky numbers and having to, all that goes with it when you take off a CGM and put it back on. Oh, but you don't have to do that with the Eversense CGM. Because Eversense is the only long-term CGM with 6 months of real-time glucose readings. This gives you more confidence, more convenience, and flexibility. The Eversense CGM is there for you when you want discretion, a break, or maybe just a little adult time. EversenseCGM.com/juicebox. Pop that transmitter off, pop it back on, you're right back where you started, without any wasted devices or time. I'm starting to take it for granted. I am. I'm starting to take for granted that Arden's diabetes supplies just show up. But they do, because of US Med. usmed.com/juicebox. We get an email that says, do you want to refill your order? And you click and say yes, and then it just comes to the door. There's not a lot to say when things are done well. Yeah, I could stand here and tell you US Med carries Omnipod 5, Omnipod DASH, Dexcom G7, G6, Tandem X2, Libre 3, Libre 2. They've got, there's so much. I'm not even listing it all. I should be. I will at the end, I promise. My point is this. It just works. And we don't talk about things enough when they just work. usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. Get your free benefits check and get started today with the white glove treatment offered by US Med. US Med, here's what they got. Freestyle Libre 3 and 2, they got it. Omnipod DASH, yes. Omnipod 5, Tandem, yep. What about, have they served 1 million people with diabetes since 1996? They have. Better service and better care is what you're going to get from US Med, but you're also going to get 90 days worth of supplies and fast and free shipping. They carry everything from insulin pumps to diabetes testing supplies, the latest CGMs, and they accept Medicare nationwide. Find out why US Med has an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau at usmed.com/juicebox or call 888-721-1514. ContourNext.com/juicebox. That's the link you'll use to find out more about the Contour NextGen blood glucose meter. When you get there, there's a little bit at the top. You can click right on blood glucose monitoring. I'll do it with you. Go to meters, click on any of the meters. I'll click on the NextGen, and you're going to get more information. It's easy to use and highly accurate. SmartLight provides a simple understanding of your blood glucose levels. And of course, with second chance sampling technology, you can save money with fewer wasted test strips. As if all of that wasn't enough, the Contour NextGen also has a compatible app for an easy way to share and see your blood glucose results. ContourNext.com/juicebox. And if you scroll down at that link, you're going to see things like a buy now button. You could register your meter after you purchase it. Or what is this? Download a coupon. Oh, receive a free Contour NextGen blood glucose meter. Do tell. ContourNext.com/juicebox. Head over there now. Get the same accurate and reliable meter that we use.
Both my parents were fairly career driven, so they weren't around most of the time. And I spent most of my time with older people, like grandparents and aunts and uncles, and I don't have any family members really close to my age. And I was the only diabetic I knew. I have the the second cousin on my mum's side who is also a type 1, but I think I've met her twice.
Mm-hmm.
They don't live far away, but it's far enough away. Oh, I've been presented with a coffee.
Help me, I'm being kept prisoner.
What just happened?
But my husband thinks he's funny.
Oh, you should look for a different husband.
He's claiming to be kept prisoner against his will.
I'm also claiming that for anybody who's listening. Somebody can come get me. I think I'm being kept against my will too. Okay, so nobody's around you. Even the people you know are far away. You don't, or aren't far away, but you don't see them very frequently. Does that leave you feeling isolated?
It does quite a bit. And of the people that I knew of my own age, they only knew of diabetes from like older relatives who had diabetes or pets who had diabetes. I have been subject to that. I know exactly what you're going through because my dog has diabetes.
Oh,
Conversation.
It's exactly the same. How do you respond to that?
Usually a smiling and nodding situation. You come across this conversation at times where someone is saying, oh, I used to have type 2 diabetes, but now it's type 1 because they put me on insulin. And you're like, you have it and you don't even understand what it is.
It's very common. Hey, Katherine, the next time someone says to you, any of you can use this, I know how you feel. My dog has diabetes. You can say, oh, I work for an asshole. I know how your dog feels.
I like that.
See if they can follow that along quickly enough. I'm sure you could slip it in. No one would even notice. So does that isolation lead to anything? Because you have a list here of things to talk about that goes through mental health, self-harming, complications, and I'm wondering what led you in that direction.
I feel like I didn't really feel like I had anyone to talk to about it. For whatever reason, I felt that it would be best if I hid what I was going through emotionally, and as much as possible, if I hid what I was going through physically. Mm-hmm. So I would pretend to have recovered from a hypo before I had really recovered from a hypo. Or I got very good at hiding symptoms of high blood sugars and low blood sugars. I would avoid taking my blood sugar as often as possible because there was quite a lot of guilt attached to any blood sugar that wasn't perfectly within normal range.
Okay.
Like you would be possibly a sign of the times because it's 30 years ago. But if it was not within normal range, it would be because I had done something wrong or I wasn't managing it properly. I wasn't looking after my diabetes properly. So I just avoided sharing what my blood sugar was as much as possible.
Okay.
And I was I'm very much a people person. I was a very lonely child. So when I got the opportunity to go to boarding school, I leapt at it. Mm. So I stopped living at home with my parents when I was 11, which I can't imagine a lot of diabetics get an opportunity to do. My mum had to give a lecture to all the boarding school staff and then a lecture to all the teachers at the school so that I could go and be in boarding, and then I would only come home at the weekends. So I had a lot more freedom to mismanage my diabetes.
So that was what I was going to ask you. Did you use that freedom to take excellent care of yourself or to ignore it further?
I would initially I was quite strict with myself about managing it. For the first 2 years when I was in a mixed dorm, they kept my insulin in a locked cupboard in sick bay, and I had to have a member of staff go with me to get my insulin out and take my insulin, which I found the grossest invasion of privacy imaginable. And some member of staff would, be coming into your room going, "Are you ready to come with me?"
Please no. Can I do this by myself? But you're 11 though. So that really, Kate, is the interesting thing, because 11's too young. You've only had it for 3 or 4 years. You're not doing well to begin with. It's not like at home everything was going terrific. So now you're taking did your parents?
I would say my HbA1c was probably pretty good at that stage. I had a bit of a wobble when I came to the end of my honeymoon period, and it took us a little while to work out that, she literally just needs more insulin that's what this is, because I couldn't understand why I was suddenly high all the time. My diet was very strictly regimented. I did start off as a diabetic at the time when it was like, well, you take this much insulin at this time and you eat this much.
Yeah.
No matter what's going on. If you're at a birthday party, you can still only eat this much. If you feel sick and you don't want to eat, you still have to eat this much, and you eat it at that time, and it doesn't matter what time the party's at, that's the time you have to eat, off you go. So it was very strictly controlled, and a lot of how I managed day to day was about finding a way to be at a certain place at a certain time, because that's when I needed to take my insulin.
Okay.
And that's when I needed to eat.
So you would consider from 7 to 11 well controlled with your mom's help, or were you doing it on your own?
With mom's help.
Okay.
Well controlled. I would have been more or less counting my carbs by myself from that period on. And as like my parents were at work all day. So I would have been counting my own carbs through the day as well. I got quite, because you were so restricted in what you were allowed to eat, it wasn't as difficult as it would be, I feel now, for a child trying to count a different amount of carbohydrate every day and try and work out a dose or program a pump to give the right amount of insulin. You were just like, well, if you're really stuck, have 4 digestive biscuits, and that's exactly the right amount of carbohydrate.
And so when can you look back and say, were you set up for failure leaving? Did you really know what you were doing on your own?
No, but there was less to know, because you weren't adjusting your doses. You were just taking the same amount every day at the same time. And if it went wrong, it was either because you had exercised shortly after taking insulin, or you had eaten too much or too little.
And so as much as there was not a lot of, there wasn't really a lot to do for you, but you still didn't do it when you got there, or you did it and then it kind of waned as you were there.
It waned over puberty, and shortly thereafter, when I was in my annoying teens, it became a kind of rebellion. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, I hate my diabetes, so I'm not going to give it any attention.
Okay. When did you start having complications?
I do have slow digestion, and I have had it described as nerve damage, but I know I had symptoms of that at 13, so I don't know how accurate it is to describe that as a complication. I would say my mid-20s, I started to have issues with my eyes. I got a bad result at a routine diabetes eye screening, which we get basically forced to go to once a year in the UK. So that would be arranged, and you would just be sent a letter, go to this screening. And I got a bad result at one of those. And it happened to me around about the time my ex-partner and I were looking to get ready to move from Northern Ireland back to England, which is where he's from. And I had discharged myself from the hospital, and then we decided we weren't going, and that they wouldn't take me back.
They wouldn't take you back? Tell me about that.
It became a whole ordeal. And took, I think, a year and a half until eventually I had to just go back to the routine eye screening to get put back on the list to see the specialist about my retinopathy, because they couldn't put me back into a list after removing me from it. There was a lot of faffing about, and then we were back to the bottom of the list.
Okay.
And I did eventually get back into it. It's not a macular problem, but it is the macular clinic that I attend. I'm usually the youngest person there by about 30 years. I've had 6 lots of laser surgery to correct the retinopathy. The first surgery didn't go very well because I am extremely photophobic, and if I look at a bright light, my eyes just clamp shut. So the first lot of surgery did not go well at all, and every time thereafter I've had a local anesthetic for the laser surgery, which I would not recommend.
And that's just to keep you a little dopey so you can't close your eyes?
It's to numb the nerves for your eye. So you do go blind temporarily while your eye is anesthetized.
Oh, geez.
Which they're very poor at explaining things to patients here. And like aftercare, kind of brushed over. So the first thing that they'll ask you to do is to hold your eye still while they put a needle up your tear duct.
Okay.
Which is not great fun.
Oh, Kate, I feel like I just got kicked in the balls in case you're wondering how it's going over here. Really? Oh, Jesus.
Very unpleasant.
Oh.
And then you find that the doctor said, follow me, and left the room. And I got about 3 steps and I was like, but I can't see. And then you have this momentary panic where you go, oh, maybe I'm supposed to be able to see and something's gone horribly wrong here. And you're like, can you help me?
Kate, I wouldn't let anybody stick a needle in my eye in a country that couldn't figure out the internet. What do you think of that?
Well, what's the alternative? No.
I don't know. I have no idea. What country's to your left?
It does become you're on your own.
Yeah.
You kind of have to just pick a person to trust doing the things that you can't do yourself. And aside from that, you're on your own.
Yeah, I feel that.
You can't necessarily, definitely not going to mention any names now, you can't necessarily just trust what you're told at the diabetic clinic because they're going to tell you to eat loads of carbs.
Yeah, and I'll tell you how to use your insulin.
No.
Right.
And they're not, if you're concerned about your weight, they're not particularly interested in your weight. They're only concerned about your blood sugar being stable. There is absolutely no hope in hell my blood sugar would be stable no matter what I was doing if I was eating the amount of carbohydrate recommended.
Yeah.
That became even more ludicrous while I was pregnant, where I was told by one dietitian I should be eating 270 grams of carbohydrate a day.
For the baby?
While I was pregnant, but obviously keeping my blood sugar under 8. Okay.
Is 270?
Yes, 270 grams.
I mean, this is just the Google, but how many carbs should a pregnant woman eat a day? Institute of Medicine recommends 175 grams of carbs intake during pregnancy. However, many women are consuming lower carbohydrate diets within pregnancy, improving for glycemic control. Yeah, I mean, I don't think 200, it's not a rule, that's for sure. I
think I put the phone down on her. I'm just putting it into my pump to see what it says. So to bolus for that, I would need 45 units of insulin.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, just in general, I don't understand eating more than you need. I understand eating what you need, etc. But I mean, that's not here's my point. If somebody said to you, eat 200 grams of carbs even, but here's where I want you to get them. Get this much from vegetables, get this much from here, that's, maybe okay, whatever. But when you just give people a number, they're not nutritionists. They're just going to start looking at things and eating whatever they have until they get to the number. It's an incomplete way of making your point is what I find upsetting.
They seem to be very concerned with low blood sugar during pregnancy.
Well,
and I have not heard an explanation as to why. Not that I was attempting to sit with my blood sugar at 3.5 throughout my pregnancy. But if my Libra was reading 4.5, then a blood test probably would have been 5.5. I was not concerned about a blood sugar of 4.5. A blood sugar of 4.5 is normal for a normal person. And they were freaking out.
Yeah, I mean, a 4.5 is 81. Yeah, that seems reasonable. It's very low, I would think. I don't know. I just think nobody knows what they're talking about, generally speaking. And it's fun to know that it exists in other countries as well, not just in America.
I think it is a very dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Because I have one or two people, I wouldn't necessarily call them friends. There are one or two people that I know vaguely because I happened to get my pump on the same day and we were in the same class learning how to use our Medtronic pumps. And one of the girls that was in the class at the same day as me had recently had her first baby. And when I felt pregnant, I had texted her and said, how did you keep your blood sugar under control, particularly after meals, with the amount of carbohydrate they're asking us to eat? And she replied and said, I just ate a low carb diet and lied to the hospital.
Oh, there you go. Perfect.
I said, yeah, that's what you want.
That's where the advice was leading her. You know, she's like, I can't do this and I can't argue with them, so I'll just do my own thing and not tell anybody. Yeah. Okay. All right. So the baby came out okay?
Her baby did, yes. We lost our baby actually a year ago today.
Oh my gosh. Wait, I'm sorry. Okay. So this is during the pregnancy?
During the pregnancy, I had contacted her for advice because I think I had certainly for the earlier part of the day, from getting up in the morning until about 3 p.m, I had my pump on 200% or more of my normal daily dosage to try and keep it at a reasonable level. And I was eating very little carbohydrate.
What did they tell you what they thought happened to the baby?
They did do some investigation afterwards, but they weren't able to find anything conclusive.
How far along were you?
We were 12 weeks.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that your first try?
It was our first try.
Do you think you'll try again?
I think we're just about getting to that place now where we'd be ready to try again. But, we're both a little bit older for first-time parents.
Yeah.
I'm a little wary of needing any kind of assistance because I'm almost at the age in this country where they wouldn't allow you to have assistance unless you were going to pay for it privately. I think 42 is the cutoff.
What kind of assistance?
IVF treatment.
I see. Did you have trouble getting pregnant the first time? Were you trying for a while?
Not at all.
Oh, your poor husband.
We got married last year on the 4th of May because we're nerds. And I think I started my period 2 days later, which would have been the 6th of May. And on the 17th of June, we had a positive pregnancy test.
Wow. Quick work.
It all seemed to line up very nicely. My diabetic anniversary was our due date. I was pregnant at the same time as my cousin. And very strong pregnancy symptoms. Everything seemed to be going extremely well. Mm-hmm. Booked a private scan because the shifts my husband works on, he was never going to be able to come to the hospital with me. So we had booked a private scan so that he would be able to see. And when we went to the scan, there was nobody in there.
That was it. Just like that.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. That's terrible. I'm sorry.
Needed quite a lot of assistance to end the pregnancy then, which took from our scan, just looking at my diary, our scan was on the 20th of August and the 29th of August, which was it was a bank holiday Monday last year, which was a year ago today. We were in the hospital having surgical intervention.
There's 9 days before the procedure?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
I was frantically emailing the hospital. Our scan was on a Saturday. And Sunday, I was frantically emailing the hospital. I was supposed to have an appointment, which they call the booking appointment here, and a scan on the Tuesday following the scan where we found out the baby wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
Oh and asking, was I still expected to come to this appointment on the Tuesday? Did they want? I really did not want to be in the hospital surrounded by heavily pregnant women. I really didn't want to have to do it.
Yeah. No, I can imagine. I mean, I can't imagine, but I understand.
Or is there a different appointment I should come to? And they told me to come the following day, which was the Wednesday, and I could bring someone with me. Yeah. And hubby was working, so I took my mum. And it's always good to have a second pair of ears when you're in shock. And they gave me hormone suppressants that day. and then tablets to take, which I took on the Friday. And I'd arranged to just be off work and spend the day with my parents on the Friday when I took the tablets. And, well, things started to happen, mainly a lot of pain started to happen on the Friday, and just got worse and worse as the day progressed, and nothing else seemed to be happening. And the following day, the pain continued and nothing else seemed to be happening. On the Sunday, we had a family barbecue planned because we had initially planned to tell the whole family we were pregnant at this barbecue. My cousin had just had her baby, and it was his first outing to meet the family.
Oh, fuck. Really?
Great timing. It's like a Greek tragedy. So I had my cousin texting me saying, "Do you want us to not come?" And I'm like, "No, please. I need something happy. Please come.
Yeah.
Please come. Please bring the baby." And we let on to family what had happened, and just carried on with the barbecue. And every now and again, I had to go and sort of put my elbows in the sink and close my eyes and go, "Wow, this is painful." And at some point, the hospital rang to say, "Well, is everything progressed as it should? Is everything over?" I'm like, "No, not at all."
No, we're just at a barbecue. Everything's the same. Thanks for asking. How did you deal with all this? Because in your notes, you're talking also about, I mean, like I said earlier, like you wanted to talk about mental health and self-harm. Like, is that a thing you've left in the past? Is that something you're dealing with now? And if so, how does it intertwine with all this?
I wouldn't say it's entirely, my mental health problems are entirely gone. But I am in such a better place. And I have an excellent support system. My husband, who was claiming to be kept here against his will, is amazing. Certainly in comparison to anything I have had before, he is willing to do things that I would never have asked another person to do. He has my blood sugars coming through on his phone. He's checking up on me. He's reading things. He knows what's going on. And that may not sound like something that you wouldn't expect from a partner, but it's not something that I've had before.
Okay.
And I think particularly in a relationship that you're starting later, I mean, dating in your mid-30s I wouldn't recommend it. The last time I was dating, there were no smartphones.
Oh, you were with somebody for a long time before recently. 15
years.
Oh my gosh. Were you married?
We were married just over a year. We were married 4th of May last year. To the previous partner, no.
No, to the previous partner, no. Okay. But you were together for that long?
We were together from university.
Wow. That's interesting. And was that an unexpected breakup?
It was unexpected to me.
Not to him?
No, not to him.
Is he Irish? Did he just leave and not say anything?
No, he didn't. He is from Yorkshire in England. He actually moved here with me in 2009. I had lost both my grandparents on my mum's side in quick succession and decided I needed to be home for a while, and we agreed that we would move back here for a year. And then he got a really good job and we just stayed. Mm-hmm. And we were here for a long time. He owns property here.
Oh, I don't need a ton of details, but I was just wondering, like, it ended abruptly for you.
It ended abruptly. Actually, I was saying about Greek tragedies. My diabetes has been poorly controlled. I have put a lot of work into getting it back to a reasonable place. I would still like to improve my control, but I would say it's at a reasonable place. When I go into the diabetic clinic, they're more interested in telling me it's the best graph they've seen today than in improving where my control's at the moment.
Yeah.
But I spent, I want to say 6-7 years attending the pre-pregnancy clinic at the hospital, trying to get my diabetes control to a place where they were going to give me permission to try and get pregnant. And the morning that I had my appointment and they told me I could get pregnant whenever I wanted was the morning that we broke up.
Oh, perfect. After 7 years of trying, what were your blood sugars, outcomes, A1Cs like prior to going to that class and getting yourself down? And what helped you get to a place where you could get pregnant?
To be honest, a lot of it was the Juicebox podcast.
Oh.
At its worst, my HbA1c was 13.9, which is 128, I believe.
Hold on 1 second. Are you looking?
Yeah.
Okay, I was going to say, I can't tell when I lose you or when you're doing something. So, A1C of what? A1C of what?
Mine, it was 13.9, but I think that's 128.
Well, 13.9 is an average blood sugar of 352. Or an average blood sugar for you of 19.6. Does that sound about where you are?
I want to say yes, but it would have required me to be testing it more often.
So you wouldn't have known to begin with. So you're not testing, you're not using enough insulin, you don't functionally understand what you're doing. You're with this guy, you decide you want to have a baby, you go to the clinic where they're going to help you get blood sugars, like quote unquote, where you need to be for pregnancy. But that takes 6 or 7 years to accomplish. When you accomplish it, the guy leaves, but you didn't accomplish it really through the classes. You found the podcast. When did you find the podcast?
When did the podcast start?
2015?
I don't think it was, maybe 2016.
So you're listening, but you're still not completely focused on your management, or it took you that long to get it together?
Oh, it took me that long.
Okay.
Like, I had completely avoided talking to my parents about my diabetes control for years. And I remember coming out of the hospital and ringing them to tell them that my HbA1c was in single figures because it was 9.9.
And everybody was like, way to go.
I was immensely proud and they were horrified. So I was given my first Libra sensor like a drug dealer would give you a free sample of something. Here, try this freestyle Libra sensor that'll track your blood sugars. And I think I got it on a Thursday, and I had it on Thursday night, Friday. And on Saturday, I went for a run and then for a swim, and it fell off. And I already knew I couldn't do without it from having it on for 48 hours.
It worked. They hooked you quick.
Yeah. At that time, it wasn't available on the NHS. So I self-funded that for 2 years. And now I get it on prescription.
Is that something you could have afforded, or it was just, it meant enough to you that you made adjustments to your finances?
It meant enough that I made adjustments. I didn't really have any money to do anything else.
Gotcha.
So it was about, they were £50, around £50, and they last for 2 weeks. So just over £100 a month. And I was earning minimum wage at the time. So it was a considerable portion of, I had to cut out a lot of things to be able to afford it. But
I have 100 pounds as about 126 American dollars for people interested. Okay. There's no doubt how valuable that information is. So is it really the podcast, or was it just being able to see your blood sugar that helped you?
Being able to see my blood sugar definitely helped, but I'd already made a lot of progress.
Oh.
From listening to the podcast and, kind of getting a grip of myself and testing my blood sugar again. When my HbA1c was 13.9, I was also referred to the clinical psychologist, which was immensely helpful. I still see the clinical psychologist. I certainly don't see them on any kind of a regular basis. Because it's a chronic illness clinic, you will not be discharged from it, but I am no longer given scheduled appointments. I will just contact them if I need to talk about something.
But speaking to that psychologist helped you to what? What were you not What was not happening that was happening after you had those conversations?
I had depression and generalized anxiety. The level my HbA1c was at has been referred to as suicidal by a number of clinical professionals to me. And
did it feel that way to you, Katherine? Did you feel like you were trying to hurt yourself?
I certainly was having a lot of thoughts about life not being worth living.
Okay.
Because I think I was 30. I turned 30 and I was driving to work and thinking about what my options were of finding a way that I could work from home, because I didn't think I was going to be physically able to continue going to work every day because my health was so bad.
Mm-hmm.
I had been diagnosed with nephropathy around the same time, and I was on a number of medications to combat the nephropathy and my high blood pressure, which at one point was something like 270 over 180.
Jeez, really?
And I thought I was going to have a stroke.
Yeah.
So one of the medications that they gave me to combat it, I had really horrific reactions to. I had fairly bad edema. I couldn't breathe. I was having fainting and dizzy spells. I had cysts in my joints. It was pretty grim. And they just kept bringing me back for blood tests, which were inconclusive. And it wasn't... We went on a holiday to Spain, which I was in so much pain I could hardly walk. And that week we were in Spain. And the Spanish healthcare system is excellent. And my parents took me down to the local clinic in their local town, and I had a full spec of bloods done, and we went and got the results the next day. And the Spanish doctor came out to me with the page and pointed to the medication on my list of things I was taking and said, "There is your problem."
You're just taking so many different medications?
It was that one in particular is apparently known for having quite a nasty spectrum of side effects.
Okay.
And I stopped taking it, and those symptoms had gone away within 2 weeks.
Jesus, really? How long were they going on for?
I was taking it for a year.
Oh my God.
And prior to that, I'd been taking a different one, which was an ACE inhibitor, which gave me a cough like croup.
Okay.
And I happened to cough in front of the kidney specialist one day, and he was like, "Oh, if that's making you cough like that, you'll have to come off it." This is after having, 3 courses of antibiotics from my GP to deal with this cough that won't go away, because apparently they don't read your chart.
So the therapy helps with the feelings about life not being worth living, and you get some better health care and get off a medication that's hurting you. You're listening to the podcast and trying to make adjustments. It sounds like you were moving through quicksand, but making progress, just slow progress, which is that about right?
It's been progress over years.
Yeah.
It's taken years. And I do have a list of complications, but they're all stable, not at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
I have been to the eye specialist within the last month. The back of my eyes are stable. There are no changes. There are no new veins. I have a lot of scar tissue, and a high blood pressure event has caused bleeds in the past, but it's been 2 years since the last one of those. Everything is nicely stable. She English isn't her first language, and she has this odd turn of phrase, because they send me to her from the pre-pregnancy clinic to see if my eyes are stable before we try getting pregnant. And she says it's okay for us to start practicing.
What does that mean? You don't finish with intent? Is that right?
So that's stable.
That's cute.
I only see the kidney specialist once a year now for a checkup.
Mm-hmm.
Unless my meds need tweaking. So my blood pressure is perfect. My protein leakage is well under control. My kidney function is over 60%, which is where they stop measuring, apparently. considered normal if it's they're over 60%.
Over there. Well, good for you. Do you feel like a weight lifted?
The last year since we lost the pregnancy has been quite difficult. I put on a lot of weight between getting pregnant and now. And I think a lot of that has been to do with the amount of insulin that I had to take to keep my blood sugar stable.
Yeah.
It's over twice what I was normally taking. And it's been kind of difficult to get in control of that.
Also, were you really going for the 270 carbs thing while you were pregnant?
No, not at all.
You weren't doing that. Okay. Yeah, that would have been crazy. The amount of insulin you would have needed then would have been insane.
And I feel guilty about using a lot of insulin. I mean, I don't have to pay for my medication here, but that's not true for everyone.
Oh.
And I feel guilty about using a lot of insulin.
Well, Kate, I hope you can find a way not to feel guilty about that. That's you're just using the amount you needed. Not a thing you should feel guilty about. Why do you feel guilty about that?
It feels wasteful.
Really?
We've had some supply problems here recently, and since Brexit, I have been stockpiling insulin, not to a ludicrous degree, but I'll have 3 or 4 vials in the fridge, more than I technically need. And I'm like, my God, am I glad that I did that? There's been a period of a couple of months where they're just like, oh, we just can't get that. There isn't any.
I have to say, I wouldn't feel guilty about that. I think that you should use what you need to use. There's enough to feel bad about in life. Don't feel bad about that, you know? Okay, so let's see what we have here. Let me ask you if there's anything we haven't gotten to that you definitely want to talk about.
I don't think so.
We're doing okay?
We're doing okay.
All right. What about the podcast helped you? Was it, because I've heard some people say, I knew what to do. You didn't tell me how to manage. I felt connected to diabetes by listening every day and hearing other people's stories that made me want to do a better job. So did you not know what you were doing, or were you just not doing it?
In part, I didn't know what I was doing. I learned about pre-bolusing through the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I have since had pre-bolusing mentioned to me through the clinic, but within the last 4 years.
Okay.
Pre-bolusing has been mentioned for the first time to me through the clinic. They sent me on a Daphne course, which is the dose adjustment for normal eating course. I think made a huge difference because it was probably I probably hadn't had any refresher about counting carbs since I was 8 years old.
Oh my God. Can I ask a difficult question, Kate?
Sure.
What's with your parents?
They were busy all the time, and I'm a control freak.
So they weren't trying to help, and if they did try to help, you pushed them away?
When I was diagnosed, we were told 40 grams of carbohydrate for a main meal and 20 grams for a snack. And I was 7 years old. My mother would be quite keen for me to continue working on those ratios now as an adult.
Mm-hmm.
If I see my mother and she doesn't mention my weight, I would be wondering what was wrong with her.
So is it just that her style doesn't match well with how you need to be spoken to?
Maybe. I mean, I don't think she should speak to anyone.
Oh, I know. I'm just saying. I'm trying to be polite. But okay, so they weren't helping you with.
Perhaps it's a parents of a certain age thing.
Are they older?
They were in their 30s when they had me, and I'm nearly 40, so they're around 70 now. And my mum's parents were a lot older. My grandfather was born in 1910.
How direct is it? Is it, okay, you're fat? Or is it
It's pretty direct.
Is it? Oh, okay. I was going to try to give you a spectrum to choose out of, but
The ex-boyfriend, the first time I ever brought him home from England to meet my parents, my father met us off the plane and greeted me with the phrase, "You haven't lost any weight, have you?" And my ex-boyfriend looked at me and went, "He's brave."
oh my. Sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing. That just that's what got me, is the idea of like, there she is, right there with her boyfriend who we've never met before, and you know what I'll do? Yeah, that's terrible. Sorry, that sucks. I don't know why you were depressed.
Can't imagine.
Okay, so
I think like a lot of what helped me was where that realization that you were on your own with it, so you kind of better get on it. You know, there's no point in waiting for it to get better. If you want it to get better, you're gonna have to make it better, and actually making it better is not as complicated as it may seem.
No, I mean, listen, if I can talk about it and it makes sense, then it's got to be pretty uncomplicated, because I'm pretty much an idiot. But what I'm seeing here is, I can't believe that I've come to believe this, but I've talked to enough people. You have a very common story. Diagnosed at a certain age, you know, there weren't a lot of expectations. So managing diabetes seemed kind of easy because nobody was really tracking it that much and there wasn't that much to do. And then you get a little older, you don't really know what you're doing, but in your parents' mind, you're like, well, she takes care of it. So that moves on. You head out of the house, you get older, you ignore it. At some point, you decide you want to have a baby. This is really a common story for women. Yeah. You decide you want to have a baby. You start looking hard at your health and you go, oh God, this is nowhere near me having a baby. And then you make steps towards either getting that together or give up. That's really how I see it go.
Yeah. Those are your options.
Yeah. And so, you know, you can go backwards. I mean, here's the kindness. You come on and tell this story so that people whose children are now 8 and 11 and 15 and 18 can hear this and think, we could get ahead of this. And this doesn't have to be my kid's story. That's why I like having the conversations, because I hope they're spurring other people into doing it. Or I'm hoping like a 20-year-old girl at college hears this and says, you know what, why don't I not wait the 6 years to decide I want to have a baby to take care of myself? Why don't I start now so my eyes don't bleed, so I don't find out what it's like to get a needle in my tear duct or whatever else is coming here. And we also haven't really talked, Kate, about high blood sugars could absolutely make you feel like you're depressed, or it could give you mental instability. You know what I mean? Like you could be...
I was an angry person.
Right. But people don't see that. They don't go, oh, you know, Kate's blood sugars are really high all the time. They just go, she's mad or she's angry. Like you don't realize how many parts of your life it's going to touch in ways that, like, there's no magical doctor that's just going to look at you and go, oh, I know what's wrong. Take one of these, turn this dial here, eat some of this, blah, 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 all fixed. Life doesn't work that way. No,
unfortunately, magic pills do not exist.
And variables start layering on top of each other to the point where you can't make sense of them anymore. And again, by example, you're taking a medication for a year that's decimating you and you don't even realize it. I'm just saying, if you start off well, you have a much better chance of ending well. Yeah. And that's what, to me, that's what your story is about. It's about what happened to you, and you found a reset point, and that's terrific. And you'll move forward from there. And everybody else, I hope you find your reset point sooner than that. I also think it's a great example that I don't give a crap how smart your 8 or 11-year-old is. Really don't put them in charge of their health. I mean, they can be part of it and learning as they go, but you can't just walk away from them and say they have it. I don't know that. I'm not sure I could walk away from Arden at 19 and that she wouldn't be on someone's podcast 10 years from now going, you know, he let me go on my own. And the next thing I did was XYZ, just like you hear everybody else say. So,
you know, if they hadn't let me go on my own, I might have lost my mind, though.
You'd be nuts with good blood sugars. Is that what you're saying?
But then I'd be in prison for murder. So
let's assume that in the conversations we're imagining that they're not your mom and dad. Oh my God. I can't imagine. Were you in the airport when he said it? Were there like people around? Yeah.
Still in the airport, surrounded by people.
Oh, well, he didn't read any of the parenting books.
I wonder if I can find it because I actually have it on video. My parents were in Spain when we found out we were pregnant last year, and we had the one photograph that I'd been given at the hospital showing my little bump, and I'd put it in the back of the photo album of the wedding photographs. So we were showing those to mum and dad, and I'd just put the scan photograph in the back when we were telling them. And I had my mum on video getting to the end of the book, turning the page and looking at it and staring at it and looking at me and saying, well, you can't lose any weight now, can you?
Is your mom thin?
She's not overweight, but she's constantly on a diet.
Okay.
like we all are. So.
Oh my God. Yeah, I don't know what to say. It's terrible.
Wow. I kind of wish I didn't have that on video.
Yeah, she didn't go, oh, I'm so happy. I'm so proud of you. I can't wait. What do you think you'll name the baby? None of that. She went, oh, well.
I mean, she was clearly happy and smiling and crying and hugging, but that's what she said.
She said. Isn't that something? I wonder why that is. How is she 60?
She's 30 years older than me, so she is 67.
Tell me when you were born, what year?
84.
She's born in 54.
Mm-hmm.
54. Okay. I don't know. My mom was born then. She didn't say any. Well, my mom was born actually earlier than that, and she still didn't say that kind of crazy stuff. I mean, it's just luck of the draw. Are you like that? Be real honest with me. I mean,
I don't think so.
You don't think you are? Okay. Huh.
I am pretty much as non-judgmental as they come. I don't have grounds to be judgmental of other people. So.
Well, that's self-awareness. Maybe your parents don't have that. Who knows? It might just be generational too, honestly. Mm-hmm. You know, it sucks, but maybe it's just how they were brought up and how they were raised and it's how they talk.
Maybe.
But it doesn't help you, that's for sure. You still talk to them?
It is for, oh yes.
Yeah.
See them every week.
Do you really?
Talk to them every day, yes. I've put a lot of work into keeping that relationship.
Is the work you not killing them? Is that the work?
Sometimes. I mean, when my previous relationship fell apart, and I was in the very enviable position where I had assistance in getting a deposit to buy my own place. I moved in here and the first lockdown started within 3 months of me moving into a house by myself for the first time ever. And they offered to have me come live with them. And
you said?
I stayed here by myself.
I bet. But what did you say though?
No, thank you.
Did you bother telling them why? Do you think they knew why?
I don't think they would understand why.
Okay. I mean, I believe that. I don't think so. If I'm being clear, I don't think that your parents is an example or anyone's parents who would do something like this. I don't think that they're sitting like, you know, I don't know, the bad guy from a 40s movie wringing their hands and planning your demise. You know what I mean?
The most frustrating part of it is that it comes from a place of love. It is like, but you can't say that.
Yeah. Or maybe there's a better way to talk about this. And maybe there's not, by the way. Like me, you've alluded to it. Maybe it would have been difficult. Like maybe your mom could have come up to you as nicely as possible and tried to have that conversation with you. And even if she said everything textbook, you might have gone, are you calling me fat? And maybe it just would have gone that way anyway. Like, I have no idea, but you could try, you know, just, geez, I don't know. What animals let their kids go at a certain age and never see them again? Maybe we should try that.
Most animals do that.
Maybe we should try that for a while. Couple generations of just being like, all right, leave, good luck, and we'll see how this goes, and keep me out of your problems, and maybe I won't make them worse. Oh my gosh. All right, Kate, I really appreciate you having this conversation with me and sticking through the technical trouble and everything. It was really lovely to get to know you. I appreciate it very much.
You too. It's good. Lovely to finally get to speak to you in person.
Well,
Been listening for so long.
oh, it's so nice. I can't believe you've been listening that long. That's terrific.
It certainly helped me a huge amount.
Well, I'm glad. I really am. So again, pre-bolusing, like, so management ideas helped you because you didn't have those.
Absolutely.
Do you like hearing the people's conversations? Or that not your favorite?
I love hearing people's stories. I think when you see diabetes represented in movies, and it's almost always entirely incorrect. When you see it represented in the media, it is either doom and gloom or someone showing what a good day they've had.
Mm-hmm.
For the most part, certainly predating the podcast, I did not see anyone struggling with control represented.
Okay.
It appeared that I was the only person struggling with control. And you knew that mustn't be true, because when you go to the clinic, there are other people there who are clearly struggling with control.
Mm-hmm.
But their stories are not represented.
So you think, is it to say then that the podcast does a good job of accurately representing what it's like to have diabetes?
Yes.
Okay. And that's important to you?
Absolutely. And the episodes with Jenny, the episode about variables, I must have listened to that episode like 100 times.
I would like it if everyone listened to all the episodes 100 times, please. Thank you.
That's one of my favorites, definitely.
Why?
It's really like this. And I sent it to other people for them to listen as well. They're like, this is what it's like for me on a daily basis. Because people don't see, the number of times I have heard, well, you just watch what you eat and you take some insulin and then it's fine. Yeah. I'm like, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you told me that.
I know that's hard. She and I, Jenny and I I think we just finished up recording the myth episodes because that was something else we were trying to shine a light on. Just what people think and what you hear in public, but what is obviously mostly not true about your life.
Our local health center has a special rate for people with disabilities, but they don't state on the website what they mean by that.
Mm-hmm.
So I had phoned them to see if they included diabetes as a disability that you would get discount to attend the health center for, and was told by the woman on the phone that diabetes is not a disability.
Hardly a thing. It's like having a cold, except you get a pump. So yeah, it's your point. Nobody's going to understand it as well as you're going to. I've come to believe that that statement that doctors tell you, like a good doctor will tell you, listen, in 6 months or a year, you're going to understand this better than I am. And I think they say it to you to give you, I don't know where that statement comes from. I really would like to dissect it more, but I think it doesn't help people the way they intended. I imagine they intended as saying, look, you're going to gather up all these experiences and eventually you're going to know so much about this. You're going to make me look like I don't know about it, which, hint, they already don't know about it. But I don't think that that's a comforting thing for a newly diagnosed person. Like, what do you mean I'm going to know more than the doctor? That doesn't make sense.
And it's not like you can tell a newly diagnosed person you're on your own with this.
Right. Yeah.
And I don't mean it exactly like that. There are resources and other people and medical professionals that are available to you with help, but they can't understand it for you.
Yeah. That's a wonderful sentence. I think that helps. That's why, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. Right. Because I think what they're probably thinking is, hey, listen, you're fucked. This is all on you. I'm barely going to help you. And if you don't figure this out, you're going to have incredibly bad health outcomes. But, instead of, they go, oh, don't worry. In a year, you're going to understand this way better than I do. It's like, I guess they're trying to give you like an attaboy, like a lift up. But I just think that better communication and more words sometimes is the way to go. Just tell them this is difficult, but it's doable. Here are a bunch of people doing it well. That is possible. So set up that there's hope, and then give them some basics. Here's what you're really going to have to know. You're really going to need to know how insulin works. You're really going to need to know what your blood sugars are. You're going to have to understand how food impacts you. You're going to have to be flexible. These things are going to come in time. You're going to have experiences. Those experiences will inform you. I know this sounds like a lot now, but we'll write them down so it doesn't seem as bad. Here's the 4 things.
Yeah. Keep notes as well.
Right.
God, I have graphs.
Of your notes and just trying to figure it all out.
What blood sugar is and what amount of insulin I'm getting throughout a period of time and how those are affecting each other. I have graphs.
Kate, let me end with this. How is your blood sugar today? Like, what are your range like? Where do you struggle? How easy is it for you, etc.?
I have been between alarms all day, which is not to say that it's been perfect. It has been between 5 and 9 all day.
5 is 90. 9 is 162. Between 90 and 162 all day. What time is it there right now? It's late, right?
It is 7 p.m.
Okay. Yeah, because it's like 2 in the afternoon here. So that's terrific. What have you eaten today?
This morning I had some natural yogurt with a very small amount of granola and a sugar-free sweetener in my yogurt, and I had some fish sticks. And at lunchtime, I had some homemade chicken curry with chickpeas in it and broccoli.
Sounds like a good day. It really does.
That's what I had.
Good for you.
So I've had about 30 grams of carbohydrate today.
Nobody's asked me what I ate today so far, but I would tell you if you asked me. And
you should call my mum. Ask her what you eat.
Let me tell you, yeah, I'll call your mom up and be like, listen, I had a key lime coconut milk yogurt this morning. I had 1 egg with 1 shrimp. I scrambled the egg. The shrimp had hot sauce on it. I cooked them together and put them in a small wrap. I think the wrap is like 20 carbs. I've also taken a digestive enzyme with my food, which, by the way, I wondered if you shouldn't try earlier in the episode.
I actually got some last week. And I started taking them on Friday, and I found them to be slightly too effective.
Oh, here they come out the other side?
They do.
Can you take fewer? Don't take them with every meal. Take them maybe more with protein, stuff that's harder to digest.
I was thinking I would take them with like larger meals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so rather than taking, because it says take no more than 3 a day.
Yeah.
Take with meals.
I try to stack them with the food that looks more like it's difficult to digest. Do you know what I mean?
I went through a period of eating like protein and almost exclusively raw vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
And I was having like real stomach problems. And as it turns out, that's probably the worst thing you can eat for slow digestion.
Yeah, for sure. 1,000,000%. But I mean, the point is that some type 1s just have slower digestion and it's not gastroparesis. So I would think if you see your insulin hitting pretty consistently and you're not like getting, I don't know, if you're not getting impacts from food hours and hours and hours later than you expected, you might just have a slower digestion. And some of these enzymes, like peppered through your meals, like in decent places, could really, you might even see your insulin use go down a little bit because the food's not sitting in your stomach as long.
I do sometimes see where my insulin will take effect and I'll go low and be looking at this low going, should I correct this low? I've just eaten.
Mm-hmm.
And then have a colossal high because I've had to correct, a low blood sugar that's gone to like 3.1 and falling.
Yes.
Because I haven't digested the dinner yet.
Well, listen, I'm not saying you don't have gastroparesis either. Like, I don't know, but I'm just saying that this would be an easier way to like look into it.
I'm hoping the enzymes will stop that from happening.
Yeah. Good luck. Seriously. I don't know what else to say. Like, I won't see you again. So good luck. I could say something your mom would say. That's not going to work, Kate.
No.
Give up now. How's that? It sound more parental to you?
Oh, it would be more along the lines of, why don't you just digest properly?
Yeah. I see. Kate, you're doing it wrong.
You need to sit up straighter when you eat.
Oh my gosh. I'm sure she'll live to be 100. May everyone live to be 100. But please be nice to each other. Okay, Kate, I'm going to hold on for a second. I'm going to say goodbye, and I'll wrap some stuff up with here at the end. A huge thanks to the Contour NextGen blood glucose meter for sponsoring this episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Learn more and get started today at contournext.com/juicebox. I want to thank the Eversense CGM for sponsoring this episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Learn more about its implantable sensor, smart transmitter, and terrific mobile application at eversensecgm.com/juicebox. Get the only implantable sensor for long-term wear. Get Eversense. A huge thanks to US Med for sponsoring this episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Don't forget, usmed.com/juicebox. This is where we get our diabetes supplies from. You can as well. Use the link or call 888-721-1514. Use the link or call the number, get your free benefits check so that you can start getting your diabetes supplies the way we do from US Med. The Juicebox Podcast is full of so many series that you want and need. After Dark, Ask Scott and Jenny, Algorithm Pumping, Bold Beginnings, Defining Diabetes, Defining Thyroid, the Diabetes Pro Tip series for Type 1, the Diabetes Variable series, Mental Wellness, Type 2 Diabetes Pro Tip, How We Eat. Oh my goodness, there's so much at juiceboxpodcast.com. Head up into that menu and pick around. And if you're in the private Facebook group, just go to the feature tab for lists upon lists of all of the series. Always free, always helpful. If you're looking for community around type 1 diabetes, check out the Juicebox Podcast private Facebook group, Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes. But everybody is welcome. Type 1, Type 2, gestational, loved ones, it doesn't matter to me. If you're impacted by diabetes and you're looking for support, comfort, or community, check out Juicebox Podcast, Type 1 Diabetes on Facebook. If you're not already subscribed or following in your favorite audio app, please take the time now to do that. It really helps the show. And get those automatic downloads set up so you never miss an episode. Thank you so much for listening. I'll be back very soon with another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. The episode you just heard was professionally edited by Wrong Way Recording. WrongWayRecording.com.